Do I want a tree fence? Do you want to put a tree behind me? Sure. This is just, all right, so we got a Shangri-La mulberry. So I'm going to be camouflaged, so we got a Shangri-La mulberry. So these are beauties. These are one of the best tasting mulberries out there. Let me push this back so you can see it waving a little bit more, and I'll stay camouflaged. That was Pepper Jake who brought it in here. So
Jake Pepper Spray.
Jake Pepper Spray. Jake Pepper Spray. He will come and spray all your plants with peppers. So keep them tasting good. One night we'll do this. Now I see you brought a drink.
I brought mulberries.
Okay, you brought mulberries.
No,
You're
come
forgiven.
empty-handed. Come on.
You brought mulberries. You're forgiven. You're forgiven. I remember being in Syria one time. Brahim went to visit him, and he had just gone and harvested mulberries that morning. I think I inhaled half his harvest. It's like, yeah, just keep it coming, keep it coming. So anyhow, it was good. So we're going to talk mulberries. So mulberries haven't, and yes, mulberries are illegal here in Pima County. We were the ones who started the whole thing of making mulberries illegal. Back in 1984, it was the woman who headed up the Pima County Health Department, and she wanted to outlaw about 2 pages of trees, if I recall correctly, and in the end it was just olives and mulberries that got banned. And if you read it, it says all mulberries, but it was designed for male mulberries because of the pollen, and female mulberries don't emit pollen. They suck up pollen and dust to give us good tasting fruit, but that's about it. So yeah, so it's, and anybody online, type in questions. You'll have to forgive me. I'm still learning how to do this kind of stuff. In fact, I think I see 3. Okay, so there we go. All right, so I got the messages there, so now I can see them. I'm still learning Zoom, so this is my second time, so bear with me. Thank you all for joining. There are actually, believe it or not, over 200 names under the Morris genus. So, although there's not even 20 of them that are recognized, I think it was either 17 or 19. Have you heard that are actually recognized?
Somewhere around there.
So
I've got 6 of them.
you've got 6 varieties of mulberries, but the actual genus.
Oh,
so there,
genus.
it's so wide, so varied. There is one I know. Silta something, I forgot it, that's actually native from Arizona all the way down to Argentina.
So is that going to be the smaller berry one that we see growing in like Cochise County and what?
Yeah, growing. Yeah, it grows about, it grows in washes and arroyos from about 500 feet up to 7,000 feet.
Yeah.
But the native, was it the Hopi who were said to have taken it up to the Grand Canyon, and from there it went over to Oklahoma.
Interesting.
But I think its actual native range is from here down to about Argentina. So Arizona's right at the northern fringe of the territory. So we've got some really neat varieties. The 3 main biggies are white mulberries, which is native to Asia, predominantly China, and it's not white in that the fruit is white. It's that the buds are white. So white fruit. So there's
I thought the fruit was supposed to be white.
Yeah, it's so like your dwarf everberry.
Yeah.
A lot of people call that a black mulberry. It's a white mulberry. It's not a black mulberry. So it is actually a white mulberry. It's not a black mulberry. It just refers to the buds coming out are white. So when it has white fruit, red to blackish purple. There's the green fruit. I just had some of those for the first time.
Aussie green, is that the one?
Yeah, the Aussie green, and I think there's an Afghan green, and I forget which one it was that Devin had. And they're green, and he had, so, Devin, I mean, up Phoenix, so he's got so many varieties of figs grafted onto his tree. I was there last week, and the birds would eat on all of them, but none of the greens, because they didn't know when to tell when they ripen.
It's camouflage.
Yeah, they go from a green to a pale yellow green when they're ripe, but you've got to look at the stem where it attaches.
To tell if it's ripe.
When that turns yellow, then it's ripe. So,
I would be wondering.
I know exactly.
I'm like, I don't think I want to touch these.
so mulberries like fruit. yeah, we'll get into talking propagation of mulberries. We're just gonna do a little bit, or if you want that, anybody, you up for, we'll talk propagation. We'll talk propagation right now. So, sorry, I just saw that pop up.
Anyway,
So, yeah, Jake does everything.
Jake of all trades.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
looking garden farm.
propagating mulberries, mulberries are, well, from seed, they're relatively very easy to propagate.
Yeah, they just pop up like weeds.
Yeah, they pop up like weeds everywhere. And so, but growing from seed, they don't always come true to form, so you don't always get the same thing.
But
So if you want to do cuttings on mulberries, if you're in a region like back east where you got a lot of more rain and humidity, so actually now that Jake brought this here, so you've got on your mulberry here, so if you can see this, so here's your softwood, semi-softwood, which is still somewhat flexible. It's losing, so here's all your green coloration, and you can see this has already grown good foot plus, and your mulberry tree should grow 4 to 10 feet a year depending upon the variety. And then you've got semi-hardwood here where it's still flexible but losing the green, and then your hardwood way down in here which is not flexible. So you want ideally more semi-hardwood. You can do some of these softwood, but it's hard
It's
to
a
get
hit and
them.
miss.
It's hit and miss when you're doing softwood. So you want semi-hardwood, no bigger than pencil or thickness for taking it. And so what you do is, here's, we've got, wherever there's a leaf, there's a bud right at the base of it. So you want to try and get at least 2, maybe 3 buds, depends on the spacing. Make your cut. I found, I don't always like talking brand names, but we'll say it here, Clonex seems to be about one of the better ones for a rooting hormone. It's a gel versus the powder.
Yeah,
And again, yeah.
We have a new formula at Simply Professional formula that works really well. It's an aloe-based. Is it birch trees that have the acid? I'm not an expert.
Willow.
Willow trees and that in it, and we make a mix.
So see, you guys should have hired me. I already knew.
I don't work for
I know,
I'm just
I know.
a tester, so.
I know. So no, I give Ron a hard time. So Simply Professional is another company, has a good rooting hormone, aloe-based and with willow bark. So IBA3, indole 3-butyric acid is what's the rooting hormone, is the actual hormone. And native willow trees here to the Americas, the natives knew that it would help with the rooting and stuff, the powder from it. And it's actually the main berry growing tip that gives you the IBA naturally in it. You go even millimeter or 2, 3 millimeters back and the level starts going way down, but in the bark it's really good there too, so that'll help for rooting. You can take willow bark and grind it up, make your own rooting powder.
Yeah, I
rooting
bought
hormone.
bags of the willow bark and make my own stuff.
Yeah, we used to put that in the potting soil and stuff, so we'd add
Oh,
willow bark to it to help with rooting and stuff, just even root growth. So if you've got, so you want your semi-hardwood, and you're gonna make your cut and have several buds, again, where there were leaves, strip those off. Now, if you're doing it now while it's got foliage, you might leave the top 2 to 3
We just
leaves.
cut the tips off of it about halfway down to stop.
Bring
the
your chair over here. So if you're gonna interject, people are gonna need to be able to hear you on here.
So when we do these cuttings, we usually shoot for about 6 inches, and it's very symmetrical when you start doing it on the hard woods. We strip everything back except for the very tips of them, and then we cut the leaf like this, straight across like this, and this seems to help with loss of transpiration. So it's gonna stop having so much moisture come through there, and that helps it get to the next point. We stick them in pots with a very loose soil mixture and put just a plastic grocery bag around it and tie it. And it's not that tight. It's not like we tape it. It still allows some oxygen in there, but gives it a humidity dome that's very simple. And that works really well. And just checking on it weekly. Your soil mixture, you do not want soaking wet. When you squeeze it, you do not want water coming out of it. You want it only to be moist. So this includes doing air layering with coco coir and or peat moss. You add moisture, but you want to squeeze it so that there is no dripping water from it, and that's the perfect moisture content right there.
Yeah, so peat moss, so 50% perlite, and then 25% peat moss, 25% vermiculite is the soil
Yeah.
mix that I like to make up for my own. And then you're all set and ready to go. Deborah, yes, this is Jake from those backwood days.
Hi.
Now and here in the desert, obviously we don't have the humidity. So if you're someplace back east, you may not necessarily have to cut the leaves or anything. You're going to keep the humidity up as well. The other thing you can do is air layering. And so air layering is where you come in and you're going to do like a 1 to 4 inch size removal of the bark. So you would cut here all the way around 360, come down inch or two, do a 360 all the way around, and then do a line all the way down with your razor blade and gently peel the bark away. And you don't want to go deep. If you go too deep, you've removed everything that's going to grow out roots for doing air layering, which is why I have difficulty doing it. Well, until I pulled all my tendons, I used to have a heavy hand. So I always had trouble doing it because I peel away too much bark, but once you peel that away, you can either use the Simply Professional rooting hormone or the Clonex and smother that all over here. A little bit of soil, put some green moss, and then you can use like aluminum foil. And people take these water bottles, just cut off the tip, cut it down, wrap it over it, close off the tops, and you're all set. And then in 1 to 3 months, depending upon the growing conditions, you got all your roots right in here, and you come back right in behind it, cut it off, and here's a good root ball, and you've started a new tree that way. So
which one is better for this? Just cutting in with the rooting hormone or air layering?
Well, here in the desert, if you're doing it going into like the end of May and June, where we normally don't have rain like we did now, I would do the air layer. If you're doing it over the monsoon season when we've got moisture and everything, either or. Note that all trees, when it starts to get too late in the season, and that means once the nighttime temperatures start cooling off, if they reach a certain point at night, the plants themselves, to get ready for winter, start releasing their own hormones, and no matter what you do, they're not going to root because they're getting themselves ready for winter time. So they set it up. Yeah, it's sleepy time. So they set themselves up so that they're not going to work no matter what you do. Then at that point in time, you wait until they've gone completely dormant, and then in January, you go in and you take cuttings from the tree anywhere from pencil to as big as your pinky, 6 to 10 inches long.
We've done
and
even larger
just
ones, like about 3/4 of an inch,
Yeah.
and have gotten them to root. We have a specialized place we call the propagation station, and it's a climate-controlled facility for our farm. And it's always humid in there, and we keep it about 70 degrees. And we do aeroponic cloning as well. That's like hydroponics, but it mists the base of the cutting. That works really well. I've done ebb and flow hydroponics. You can take a pot of clay pellets and have an ebb and flow system where the water comes up about 4 inches and then drops back down about 3 or 4 times a day. And we can put 10 clones into a small pot like this and get success that way as well. So the aeroponics and hydroponics work well. Really simple is the peat moss and mixture that Tony spoke of.
Cocoa peat will work?
What's that?
Cocoa peat.
cocoa mulch
it's
mulch
the
or
same.
peat moss.
People are using cocoa coir more so because they say it's more sustainable than peat moss. So that's your choice of what you want to use.
Cocoa coir has to be triple rinsed at
Exactly.
least with potable water before it's usable.
But it's a
so-
byproduct of the coconut industry.
Yeah,
so.
Acidic.
But
It's
it's a byproduct of it, but it has all the salts. That's why you also always get
Yeah.
I
calcium.
didn't know you had to do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they use up all your drinking water to make
To
it so
clean
that
it.
you
So you
clean
can-
it so you
okay.
can
And
use
then
it
say it's
without
more
killing your
sustainable.
plants. Yeah, I don't get how it's more sustainable when you're using all the drinking water to.
There's always a kink in the.
There's a kink in everything. Peat moss is sustainably harvested. There are guys who go out and do it, and always keep back some of the original peat, and then they'll go and grind up all kinds of logs and stumps and everything else and replant them in the peat bogs and put that peat back over it and not revisit that field for 10 or 20 years.
There you go.
So they're doing everything they can to be sustainable about it. Let's see, okay, so the ratio was 50% peat moss or cocoa, 25% perlite, and 25% vermiculite.
I am not Jake Mace. I am Jake
No,
Pepper
yeah,
Spray.
this is Jake Pepper Spray. This is not Jake Mace. Yeah, that
Jake
I didn't
Mace
even
and
think
Pete.
about that. I didn't even think.
You don't
No,
have
this
anything
is
like
not-
Jake Mace.
No, it's not Jake Mace. He's somewhere in
I've been on the grower groups for a long time
The
though.
vegan athlete.
Yes.
the vegan athlete who's somewhere in
He ran away
He's
to
in
British
Canada.
Columbia.
British Columbia, yes.
He lives on an island. He doesn't care about us anymore.
So, did that answer your question on how to propagate mulberries? Yeah. All right. So,
So where do we get the Simply Professional rooting?
well, they've got it here.
It's called, yeah, they sell it here. Simply Professional Formula, and it's a propagating kit that comes with a scalpel and the mixture, and it works really well. I've
So
tested
it just
out.
works. So it works with all fruit trees.
All plant material, yeah. So
Yeah.
aloe vera naturally has hormones that help it with rooting, as well as willow bark. And honey helps a little bit because of the antibacterial properties. Even though honey is an old world thing, people don't realize honeybees are not native to the Americas. They are an introduced species, and we've got over thousands of native bees, mason bees, cutter bees, bumblebees.
Yeah.
Everything else. I was taking a video the other day out for a walk with my wife, and here's this white-winged dove, and she's going through pollinating all the sorrel flowers, tripping over herself, going from one flower to another until these woodpeckers flew in to chase her away. So there's a lot of other pollinators as a side note out there. So, but yeah, so that's how you're going to pollinate or propagate mulberries. So it's an easy way to go, and should really help out with it.
And there's a ton of videos on YouTube if you have any further questions to see how it's
Well, and you can reach out to me as well.
Yeah.
So let's say we air layer like a foot long branch.
I've done 6
So
foot.
how
mulberries.
long will it take to grow like a
If it's a mulberry, my
Sarah,
first
hang on a
mulberries.
second. So Sarah, hopefully I caught you beforehand. I am starting a YouTube channel, Earth's Original Organics, and this will be posted there. So I will announce it once it gets posted. I'm still learning how to do YouTube as well. So good luck. Thank you for joining us.
The mulberries grow very quickly. If you do the proper planting, there's the U of A extension that says to stick in native soil. If you do that, it's going to take a lot more years for that to get as large. If you do a large prepared hole with the proper amendments, I've had trees shoot up to 20 feet in over a year and a half. I mean, they grow so quickly.
Are they slow enough growers to put them in a pot for a while?
So there's a dwarf ever-bearing mulberry that you can grow permanently in a pot.
Okay.
The fruit isn't as big, maybe quarter inch,
Yeah.
but it is still sweet, unlike the
And
one.
they produce a lot.
You wouldn't want to recommend these guys be.
You
Oh, no.
can plant anything in a pot, just like a bonsai can be done, and you'd have to come through every year and do root pruning in order for it to survive.
So,
Right, okay.
but just realize it's not going to be as large because
And then
number
it won't,
one.
yeah, because the root system will
Well,
combine
The canopy size.
yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
you're not going to let the tree get as big because you got to be able to lift it up out of the pot and prune the
Exactly.
roots.
Yeah.
So at that
Okay.
point in time, if you're doing it for fruit, just stick with the dwarf ever-bearing so that it's much easier to
I'm
do.
just not in a position, I don't want it in the
You
ground.
can, you
where
can,
I
you can totally grow in a pot and get
I want it,
fruit.
it needs to be mobile for a little while.
I mean, it's not going to be a giant tree that produces 100 pounds or anything like
Yeah,
that. But
okay.
there are berries there every year. I mean, we grow as a nursery and have plenty of berries just on the trees in 5-gallon pots.
Okay,
So
okay.
mulberries are usually not sold in 25-gallon pots. There's just no reason for it. We sell from 1 gallon to 5 gallons, and that's
So you
it.
start growing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now just
Now I want-
don't go by the name. The world's best mulberry is not the world's best mulberry.
So
It's
If
so
he's trying to
bad.
say for the amount of production, so I got a friend who got one And that thing is so overloaded with fruit. The branches
It's beautiful. It's
are
an
like a
amazing-
weeping tree. It's a gorgeous tree, and the fruit is
Absolutely
there.
bland. It tastes
It's
like
bland.
water. I've had
Yeah.
friends who love
But
mulberries.
it's prolific, but it's.
It's prolific. I don't know how or who the salesman was that ran around selling this.
did the name.
Right.
It's the name sells everything.
Yeah, I heard about it and I was like, oh my god, it's the world's best mulberry. I'm getting one. I planted one at my parents' house. I planted one on our farm, and it's been 2 years now. And we were like, okay, they're ready. They're super ripe. Try one, and there's almost zero flavor to it. You literally have to add sugar and lime to it to get any kind of tastiness.
Yeah.
So I bought this, like, you know, I got large ones, but I also bought this small white mulberry thing, which is small one here. And I went home and I put it in a small planter, a little bit more soil, put it there. And I put it in kind of not so much sun, but in between two trees just to shade it a little
Yeah.
bit. And third day, it was pure third day, and I have pictures of it, dead. Dead.
Well, so
Was it
So
planted
I don't know
too
what I
soon?
did wrong. I watered it also. I don't know. What
well,
I
but
did.
so
And
let
I
me
was
ask you
perplexed.
this: did it get like brown and crispy?
No, it just went green. It was green and dead.
That
Okay.
sounds like
It
rotten.
just so I will
Well,
show you
but-
the pictures of it.
We'll look at pictures afterwards. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
usually you don't get root rot in 3 days, especially from a new little one. Was it a cutting or was it a?
No, I bought it from here. They were selling small ones, like a little thing.
So here's the thing: when they're this small, you go and you water it, and the rest of the surrounding area is still wet, and you think it's wet, but it's still like it was in that little pot.
Yeah.
And here with our heat and these dry winds, they still dry out like that. So you have to water it like it's in that pot. So you got to keep soaking. So I'm sure it dried out real quickly.
If it didn't dry out,
Could heat have any?
No. The heat only does it if it doesn't get water.
I see.
Mulberries love the
Was
sun.
it-
I'm gonna
was
try one
moist?
more time from the same place, buy the same thing they have it.
But
and
pump the water.
We'll see whatever happens.
When people transplant it, when I sell trees, I tell them here now, from this point forward, you water it every day for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I thought I watered it.
No,
when
you
you
gotta
found
dose
it
it.
like that, was it dry or was
No,
it?
it was green when I bought it. I went and put it in a bigger pot. Just put a little layer of soil, potting soil. put
What
it on
kind
top.
of potting soil?
That was from a bag.
Okay, so if you got it from like some of the big box stores, a lot of these
Not
guys,
from- yeah, kind of.
so a lot of these guys are blending their potting soils with manure, and that's what makes
Yeah.
them cheap. And that's what kills the plant. That's why they're
Absolutely.
cheap. That's
Too
why I
much
don't.
nitrogen, it burns it instantly, and
Too
that'll
much.
cause that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so,
you need-
most likely.
You got to watch out for a lot of these. I've
Too
gone,
much nitrogen will kill it.
yeah.
Yes. And when
that
you're
manure
stepping
is
up
doing-
these plant sizes, you don't want to go from a tiny little pot to a 5-gallon pot.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
expect
because
it to
then the
go
water will go
crazy.
down, yeah.
They like to be in confined spaces, and until those roots fill out those spaces, we
So
don't
I can
want
take
pot.
this and keep it for about 2 weeks just in the same one that I
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and let it get
And
accustomed
then-
to your environment, and then use a high quality potting soil that is not Miracle Grow and or Kellogg's.
So which
or-
one do you recommend from here?
So, like I said, I don't always like saying brand names, but you can do Sunshine Mix,
Sunshine Mix is awesome.
Pro Mix.
That's what I use.
Sunshine Mix or Pro Mix.
And that's from Home Depot, Sunshine Mix.
Those are both good.
And ProMix?
Yeah, it's the same thing. They're peat-based mixes. Two different companies. Sunshine has the western part of
They are
Canada.
not heavy in nitrogen?
No, there's no nitrogen. They're a soilless
Just
mix.
peat, yeah, so we
peat
fertilize
moss and
much more regularly. We allow the plant to get to a point, if we see a little bit of deficiencies, and we start adding a mild
So
fertilizer.
we'll talk about so.
Like Tony's original organics.
Yeah,
So you have that?
Huzzah! There we go. Time
So
to drink.
Tony's
Next
original
time you gotta
organics
bring.
is available here?
Next time you
We're
gotta
doing
bring
shots
the.
next time.
Yeah, you bring the bottle of whiskey next time, and we're doing shots. That's the magic word, everybody.
Hey, Tony, was
When we say organic fertilizer, that's when you drink.
All right.
Okay, which one do you like? Bourbon or Scotch?
Either or.
Right?
Either
this
or.
guy.
I
You
like
come
this
back.
guy. Yeah, you keep coming. That's your. So
I like this
if
kid.
we're gonna talk, so for fertilizer, when you're fertilizing mulberry trees, if you've got them in the ground, depending upon the region that you're at, they don't always require a whole lot of fertilizer. But here's the deal: when you buy any plant from a nursery, it's It's what I even tried convincing a lot of these landscapers, arborist guys and everything around here, is we got our arborist meeting tomorrow if you want to come, breakfast meeting, but anyhow, they don't get it, even mesquites, they say, well, it's native tree, acacias,
It doesn't
native
need
trees.
anything.
It doesn't need anything, but the problem is in the nurseries, those are getting fertilized every time water runs on it. Every single time it waters, whether it's with a hose, they're going through putting a slow release fertilizer on them, little pellets that take 1 or 3 months to break down, or it's going through the drip irrigation lines, they're getting fertilized every single time. So when you take it home, you've got to slowly wean it off, because mulberries themselves, depending upon where you live, might need fertilizer 1 to 3 times a year, maximum 5 times, but generally about 1 to 3 times a year, and just a good quality organic fertilizer. If they're in pots, now pots is a whole different deal. Pots might need it if you're using a dry organic once a month to every 3 months, again, depending upon your area, since we got people on Zoom joining us from different regions. Here we water so much once it gets hot, you got to do it once a month. If you're back in the Midwest where you water your container plants maybe once a week, where we're watering once a day to 3 times a day in the summer here, then maybe you fertilize once every 2 or 3 months,
Yeah.
even still in a pot.
And with proper runoff and everything, they're losing that fertilization very quickly.
Yeah, so nitrogen is mobile in plants as well as in the soil. So if you put it in the soil and you water, the nitrogen starts leaching out. So especially if you've got a synthetic, if you're using something like ammonium sulfate or a triple 10, that nitrogen, the right weather conditions, you put it on the surface and you wait for the rain to come and water in your fertilizer, that nitrogen in the fertilizer can dissipate back into a gas and disappear back in the atmosphere, right where it came from. When they make those synthetic fertilizers, all they do, the Haberdash method, they just go out and they grab nitrogen from the atmosphere, bring it in, combine it with hydrogen, heat it to 500 centigrade, and there's your fertilizer.
Huh.
So they're trying to find out ways for little farmers to do that right there in the back of their fields. But so that does it. So if you've got organics aren't going to break down as quickly. And one of the reasons I put neem meal, so I developed and patented my own organic fertilizer. We'll talk about that at the end. But it's bat guano based, so bat guano helps with taking heavy metals out of the soil. Still has the ability to repel certain insects, but neem meal, so if neem oil, if you know that, the seed that's left from that, the neem meal is a very good fertilizer, and it helps make the nitrogen last longer. So I'm seeing now in Asia, where the neem tree is native to, they're taking neem meal and they're prilling the fertilizer with neem meal so that it lasts longer, so that the nitrogen lasts longer. So that'll help out in there in the soil as well. So yeah, so your trees don't generally need a whole lot of fertilizer. If you really want to pump them up for fruiting, just like any other fruit tree, you can go through in the fall and add, and remember, fall means as soon as the nights are cooling off. Not when the day feels cool enough for you, that's too late. As soon as the nights are cooling off, well, if you give a fertilizer that's designed to promote flowering in the fall, the trees take it up for storage so that it's there when they need it next spring. And then, not one to grow, but just a formula that's designed just to promote flowering. Put that on in the fall and your trees will have it what they need in the spring, and then they're ready to go.
Yeah, we've been doing that since Tony told me years ago about fertilizing, and we do mid-November, late November. I think I hit it really late November last year. I have never seen so many fruit on my trees before. Following your strategy, it's really remarkable. It puts what the trees need readily available when they wake up in spring, instead of them having to search for that bloom, and they just go wild.
Yeah, so that's for fertilizing there.
So November, you said?
Yeah, here, October,
Here.
November.
Yeah, we're trying not to say too much because
Yeah, I mean, so one's coming from Phoenix could be almost Thanksgiving.
yeah.
Here I like sometime the end of September to the end of October, just depending upon, and it varies year to year. Your fall weather, at least
How
here.
large is the berm on an established tree? Like how far?
Well, so you start the fertilizer like a foot or so away from the trunk of the tree. If you've got a young tree that's got a trunk like this, go out about a foot. If you've got a mature tree with a 2-foot trunk, go out 3 feet or 4 feet, start from there and go out to about 2 feet beyond the spread of the tree. So tree roots actually go beyond the drip line. They don't stop at the drip line. They go anywhere from 1 to 5 feet beyond the drip line, because roots are growing ahead of leaves if you started
So
something
if
from
your
a seed.
berm is just about 2 feet long and the tree is going beyond, and this is not part of your
If you're not watering the
your
outside
amended soil,
area.
you put it there anyway.
Yeah, you need to water that whole area.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah,
If
as
this
the
is your
canopy
tree,
grows, your tree well needs to grow as well.
so if here's your tree, the first year I'm watering right here. Next year I'm watering here. Next year I'm watering here.
Oh,
So
the tree
That
line.
bird
Yeah.
probably might
beyond the
be
drip
inside.
line.
Yeah.
And dig down. At least here, dig down. If you've got, just say you did a basin that's 6 feet by 6 feet and 6 inches deep, a summer storm, that's I forget if it was 119 or 139 gallons of water that will all flow in there. At least here for Arizona, that's a good amount of free water.
So if I have two mulberries like 8 feet apart, and I got 2 feet berm around it, so I should take this middle area and try to kind of
You may combine
make this
them.
into
Yeah.
combine.
Yeah,
Get rid of
combine
those
it. Make it
berms,
one-
Get rid of the berm,
berms.
basically make
Yeah.
it into.
Yes, make
Big
a giant
basin.
oval.
And expose the root flares. So
Yeah,
Mul-
flares explode.
And it's
Mul-
gonna collect water when it rains.
yeah, mulberry
So-
trees don't have a whole lot of diseases, but having the root flare exposed on all of your trees, and there are better images online than I can describe, but essentially it's like seeing where the roots attach to the trunk of the tree, like your fingers attaching to your knuckles. And you don't have to go out far. Again, if this is the trunk of the tree, maybe I'm going out 1 to 2 feet where you see the roots going down in the ground. I will admit, I did not believe in that in the beginning. It's at the Tucson Botanical Garden, where we getting my fertilizer a few years ago to use on some of the trees there. Walking around with that. The oddball eucalyptus tree, could see it had been dying and it had new leaves coming up. What's up with the tree? It was dying, we didn't know what was going on with it. Brought out an arborist company. They said it's buried too deep. Tony, all we did was pull soil away from the trunk. 3 weeks later, it started growing out new growth.
Absolutely.
Now, 3 years later, it's thriving and they've done nothing else to
The
it.
sun doesn't, so the roots like I have some roots coming out like
have no
this.
issues.
Have no issues.
Not at all. If you go around and look at like a wash area, and there will be mesquites that literally just have roots hanging there when they get washed away, and they're 100 years old. It's not a problem. Any healthy tree is going to have their
No,
root flare
mesquite is different. I was
exposed.
talking about mulberry.
But
All
of them.
trees.
All-
Go look at them
Absolutely.
where they grow and start growing in the wild when they
90
get mature. The healthy ones you see, you always see their roots at the surface. of the tree.
90% of consults that arborists and I go out and do, the root flare is buried too deeply, and as soon as that is exposed, it fixes their tree problem. Besides a couple regiments, but most times it's due to it being not able to breathe. And
You hope it fixes it. So sometimes, just like anything else, there's a point of no return. So basically what happens is having it buried too deep, long term it can bring in root diseases. So Phytophthora, Fusarium, Verticillium. If you get any of those in there good and strong,
It's
and they've
over.
reached a certain point,
Yeah.
it's over. There's nothing you can do. The other one that these trees get, they've changed it now. They call it more cotton root rot. It used to be Texas root rot
Yeah.
way back in the day. So it's a soil fungus that naturally occurs basically from California all the way in over through Texas, and it can wipe out a tree in a matter of days.
Yeah, I've seen it happen for sure.
And it's nasty.
So how do you prevent it?
You prevent it through proper care.
So
Just keep the
you're supposed to keep your mulch 6 inches away as well. If you're flooding your basins and you have mulch and dead debris residing on that root flare and trunk, then that's what can cause it as well. So even though you may have, your root flare looking well, just you need to keep your mulch back. If you water differently, I use a drip irrigation that has emitters every 6 inches, and we just make a giant spiral around our trees, which can just be easily moved outward. I don't have berms. I started with berms, but now I've added so much mulch. My entire yard is just alive. And there are roots going 40 feet away from trees, and they talk to each other just like a forest.
Yes.
We've replicated what a forest has going on and drop all of our leaf litter on the ground. Do not rake anything, and it's a perfect world. Everything is exploding with growth.
Yeah, so that's basically, he's just taking all the ground up old trees and
We
everything
threw
and
wood
just,
chips there.
Everywhere.
yeah, wood chips,
We
everything.
started 2 feet deep and planted everything 2 feet above grade, 16 to 2 feet
So
above
wood chips
grade.
on the thing and then put soil on top and put it.
We plant like you're planting a plant. We call it volcano planting, and we create a soil mixture and have it come out like this, at 16 inches taller than what you'd expect. We have very hard caliche in our yard, and so we had to create our own soil. You've seen it. The mesquite,
Oh, yeah.
the mesquite can't go 16 inches underground.
So
And
instead of digging a hole, you're adding on top.
we dig very little and we add on top,
Alright,
and it
alright.
allows the trees to grow out and put
Alright.
their roots everywhere.
So I've
And
done that
then
with my guavas.
So the volcano, after that, we fill everything else with mulch on the outside. And after watering, it breaks down and it looks just like a forest floor. We have soil that looks like you live in the Midwest, and we do not have soil like that
Yeah,
here.
so you had a
No,
question. So-
would that work for, I propagated loofah, and I'm getting ready to go in the ground, and I was going to dig a trench next to the fence that is gonna be the trellis. I wonder if I just put the loofah on top and build up instead of digging that trench.
Vegetables are a little different.
Vegetables are different,
Okay,
still
okay.
get in
Yeah.
some really good soil, but
I
you
was
can
trying
still.
You don't
Save
have
some
to dig that
digging.
deep, though. No.
But here's the thing, so when he's saying volcano, it's not volcano mulching. So back east, they do volcano mulching, which is what helped Cornell discover why you need to expose the root flare.
Yeah.
There they go and just pile the mulch up against the trunk of the tree. Planting it on a volcano means you've built the volcano and then you're planting the tree on top of the volcano. So just for clarification, in case somebody was having trouble hearing it on top. So what kind of mulch do you like?
Natural. Not
So,
dyed.
yeah, so I mean, getting some of the good bag mulches, there's not a whole lot left that are out there. And I haven't had to buy any in so long, I don't know
There's-
what to say for brands.
What do you think of
can look-
pine mulch? I've utilized that from Home Depot when we didn't have wood chips.
Well, so I mean, so there's mulch for mixing into the ground, which I prefer compost. Like bumper crop is a good one there if you can find it. Putting mulch on top of the ground, any ground up plant material is gonna work just fine. Pine needles, cutting up the branches of your dead trees. You prune your mulberry, grind them up, throw those down on the ground. Your vegetables, as long as there was no diseases or major insect
Fungal
issues, then don't put them down in there. And you don't have to go and, oh, I need to make my compost heap and keep turning it and everything else. Mimic nature like what he's done. Just spread it out all over the area, and nature's gonna start breaking it down underneath and just keep adding to the top, and you're gonna start building up a good
The
healthy
best
soil
mulch
body.
is from an arborist and contacting your local tree person and asking them to dump a chip drop at your house and taking that material and throwing that all over your yard.
Easier said than done.
It's
It
hard
is.
here.
Well, it's
It-
really hard now. Back when I first started, I could get 2 loads in a week. And then because we've spread this knowledge throughout the Southwest, it's almost impossible for me. I have to become friends with the arborists to get them to come to my house. And then we tip them out and we give them eggs and we give them mulberries and whatever it takes to have them think of us the next time they're in our area.
So bribery, yes.
Yes,
Yes,
bribery always
absolutely.
works.
So what do you think about this? I have a wall that has space behind it, so I had a mesquite tree. My neighbor was cutting it, so I got those logs and I threw it at the back. That was the first start, and then all the other stuff that I could, my landscaper would take from my thing.
You've just
I
been
said,
throwing
don't
it.
take it, just throw it. And then down the line, I had so I read somewhere about Yugal culture. German.
Absolutely.
And then
That's
I
what we
threw,
do in
then
the
I threw the
whole
wood
yard.
chips. So that brought the whole thing. It saved me a lot of money too because I had the wood in under it. Then I put the wood chips, and now when I get a new thing, I put about 2 feet of soil.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
And then I'm planting it now.
There you go.
It works great.
And
We
my
drop
pomegranates are just going through the
Yeah,
roof.
we drop everything in our yard. I have a 3-inch wood chipper, and anything larger, I literally bury and just put wood chips over it.
I
In
don't
our
even
entire
cut it.
yard,
I
you'll
don't
find
even cut
logs
it.
that
I
have
just
broken
throw it and
down
throw the
over
wood chips
2
on
years.
top.
Yeah.
Yes, it's perfect.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
what nature intends. A tree falls, debris falls on it, and then plants
This
grow.
big logs are under my trees. This
Yeah,
big.
and it's very easy for maintenance. There's no more going to the landfill or anything like that. I mean, there's occasionals where I have to have stuff picked up, but for the most part, everything in our yard gets just recomposted. Into
So
the
is
ground.
Yugal culture real peel?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it works,
Yeah.
and it works for raised garden beds. If you have a huge raised garden bed and you didn't want to pay $300 for soil, you can throw all sorts of logs in there.
It
It
saves a lot of
will,
money for the bags. of
yeah,
those.
it will break down over time, and you have to
Yeah.
add that soil eventually. But
Now, here's the thing, because I've seen this, some people are going out getting their material, their trees are already nutrient deficient. And they just keep dumping it, and they're saying, well, I'm just recycling the
Yeah.
mulch and the leaves. I can't understand why they're getting yellower and yellower. Well, because there's already a deficiency. And using, use it, there's nothing wrong with
Yeah, it's
it.
efficient mulch.
But there's no, so the mulch you got in the long run is only as good as the nutrients. So don't think of it as always taking the place of fertilizer, of supplying
Absolutely.
everything for what
even
you
though
need.
we have a forest floor, we still utilize fertilizers, like what you were saying in the late fall. I still use sulfur. That's very important to
Yeah.
lower our pH here. It doesn't stop. Even though I have perfect soil, I still see deficiencies here and there. Manganese and issues.
Is African sumac dropping still sufficient?
I've
nothing
used
wrong
them,
with
there's
it.
nothing wrong with it. Oleander, I've thrown down eucalyptus, I have no issues. Palm fronds, people are, oh, no, use palm fronds. That stuff breaks down into like cocoa
Sorry.
butter. I mean, it's very fibrous and works well.
Yeah,
The
you
boots,
just What's that?
the palm boots aren't
Yeah.
fun if they're not ground up. They're
Even
no
though I
fun.
do a lot of pot gardening, because I'm not like, if I put it in the ground, it's gonna stay.
It's legal now, you can talk about pot
Yeah,
gardening.
yeah. But like, and it's something my mom started teaching, and then I learned it over the years. So in that pot, I start at the very bottom, and I put big rocks, and then I put, some sticks or wood, or then leaves, and I build that with the pot. That I'm just a flower pot, whether it's this big or this big, I'm still layering it throughout.
As long as there's good drainage
Yeah,
and there
and
isn't
that's what those
a
rocks at the
disease or
bottom
fungus
are.
issue,
But
Yeah.
believe it or not, the rocks in
the
the bottom
rocks
don't,
cause problem.
they don't help with drainage.
They do not.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It makes it worse. So, and this is from
That's
my
new.
university professor from over 30 years ago. Even then it was, okay, so in the soil department, we figured out it's bad, but we don't talk to the agriculture
Yeah.
department. And the agriculture department doesn't talk to us. It inhibits drainage, so the water will not drain down into the rocks down below until the soil up above has reached 100% saturation rate. So if you have different layers, your water isn't going to drain into this next layer till this layer's hit 100% saturation rate. Then this layer needs to hit 100% saturation rate, then it'll drain into this layer,
So
and
in
then
the
it'll drain
meantime, all
into
this
this.
stuff is sitting in water.
In the meantime, everything's sitting up here, and your plant's roots don't grow into the different soil layers either. They stay up here, and then they say, oh, hey, this is something different, I'm not going down in there.
Okay, yeah.
So now if I've got a plant pot like this, and the first layer's here, my roots are up here. There's not,
Okay.
there might be a little bit go down below there, but the majority of your roots are staying up in
Until
here.
that material breaks down, then it doesn't
Right.
want to go there. So if you're in just a pot, buy the soil.
Okay.
You can put some stuff in there. But also, wood chips do cause nitrogen sequestering. So
Yeah, so you gotta be careful when all the wood chips first get going. It's carbon to nitrogen ratio, so depending upon what you've got,
They actually suck the nitrogen.
well, it's the microorganisms
Yeah.
that are breaking it down. They rob the nitrogen from the soil, because nitrogen is life for everything. And then once they've broken everything down, then they release it back into the soil. So if you've got issues of, yellowing of your leaves, and how do you tell? So here's our tree again. So leaves turning yellow from the bottom up means nitrogen deficiency, because the old leaves, nitrogen's
they're
mobile.
being
so
cannibalized.
yeah, the plant will take it from the old leaves to put it to the new leaves. So it's nitrogen deficiency. A lot of times people say it and they'll just go, oh, well, I've got an iron deficiency.
Yeah, exactly.
No, iron deficiency is only if the very newest growth is yellow. And then it's yellow with green veins running through it. And zinc looks very similar to iron deficiency on the new growth. Difference being, at least in the initial stages, iron deficiency, the leaf keeps its normal shape. Zinc deficiency, the leaf gets narrow and pointed. So you can tell the difference between the two.
So iron deficiency is when the leaves turn brown from the top.
No.
Right.
The newest leaves
Yellow.
are yellow.
Huh?
They don't turn brown.
Yeah.
The very newest leaves are yellow with green veins running through it. So the leaf turns
It's
yellow
one of the
and you can
simplest
see the
ones.
green veins going through it. That's an iron deficiency. If it looks like that and the leaf gets very narrow and pointed, that's zinc deficiency.
And don't apply iron during the winter when
Oh.
the
yeah.
soil temperatures are what is the temp?
But it's
So what
just,
is used for iron supplement?
so chelated iron. So
Chelated iron.
Ferroplus from Miller is a good one. Ferripluss. IPLUS. Monterey brand has a good one called Sequestar. I think it's Sequestar 138. Those are both good chelated irons. Now, the thing is, cold, wet soil temperatures promotes iron deficiency. So sometimes you can get an iron deficiency like this year. Tucson, we had a winter this year. I mean, it snowed at my house 4 times this year.
Yeah.
So the iron may not be available because of the cold, wet soil temperature to be uptaken by the plants right away when they first start leafing out in the spring. So then once the soil temperature warms up, I usually tell people mid-late April, if your plants haven't greened up by then go ahead and add iron.
Yeah.
I had, in church, we planted some roses a couple years ago, and earlier this spring, some of the initial new growth on a couple of them was coming out showing strong iron deficiencies. I didn't do any iron applications to them, and now they're just fine. So I got a video of them showing the iron deficiencies, and I've been at work so much, I haven't been here, I haven't had time to go back and do a follow-up
Somebody
video.
asked if African sumacs were okay to mold.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
perfect.
Oh, yeah, African, so
No
Paola, I don't know if
problem,
you
you
heard her. So, yeah, so that's, African sumac are just fine. And yes, Marissa, our pleasure, glad it helped. So, and thank you, I forget to look there to see the
Well, I
questions.
got you, but
Takes 2 seconds.
Yeah, wait till he brings a bottle of bourbon next week. I'm gonna forget even more. And hopefully my wife isn't watching tonight under a pseudonym, or I'm gonna be in trouble.
you haven't hit on me yet, Tony. so
I haven't
you're
hit
all
him.
right.
We're good. You're too scruffy.
Good
Since
night,
your beard
Australia.
I should
got
probably shave.
no, since your beard got gray, you're too old for me.
I know,
You
how
need
old
to-
are you?
You want me to hit on you again? At least color your beard. I like brunettes.
A touch of gray.
A touch of-
No, you're as old as my daughter, right?
So, anyhow, I think that's getting most. Oh yeah, I'm talking about.
Yeah. I'm
Well,
gonna
no,
leave
this
you.
is. You're gonna leave me. Where are you going?
I'll come back. I
Oh,
want
this
you
is-
to get through all the cultivars.
So yeah, so this is just. So yes, any questions then on anything else? So beyond that, I just wanted to talk about a few of the different varieties. I got them written down because I'm not remembering everything right. I get too many things going on in my mind. Oh, I do want to ask for some of you on Zoom, since I posted on a new app, any thrivers out there, and you can just say yes if you want, or if you don't want to, or you can say it on that app. So we talked about the white.
And an app.
Yeah, it's just something else. It's
It's an inside joke?
no. It's an app for people getting ready for things to come and learn about, sharing community and everything, sharing information, economics,
I got you.
That was
food,
in my head.
food security, electric security, all that good fun stuff.
Okay.
So again, we talked the white mulberry, Morris alba. Yes, ma'am.
This white mulberry, is it the slower growing than the other ones? Just curious.
No.
Damn it, then. I got one that's so slow. I don't understand. I probably got the soil messed up.
Well, if you got one that's growing very slowly, maybe you accidentally got a black one. What?
And you
Those
got
are the
that-
best
Black ones
tasted.
are more flavorful.
I know, but I want white mango. I mean, I got black. I got,
No, well,
I mean,
no.
I got the,
You want the white fruit.
I don't know, I'm just wondering white mulberry was good.
Okay, so many white mulberry again does not mean the fruit is white. There's a lot of white mulberry that are black fruit when they're ripe. White mulberry just means that the buds have come out of it.
Right.
So there's a lot of white mulberries that are black fruited. So if you go through and look up the list, you'll look at it and say, Oh wow, that fruit's red, red, black, 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 white. Oh, so the majority of the white mulberry are actually black fruit and not white fruit.
So I was in Phoenix and this guy had a tree. The ripe ones were very light yellow, and he says Mongolian. Like he says he's propagating it and he's going to give me like even the complete
fruit
ripe
is
ones, long like Pakistani, but very light yellow.
Yeah,
like
so that's what
totally
we're
ripe.
talking about. So depending upon
What
who you
is
talk
that?
to,
He said
they'll,
Mongolian, if I remember.
they'll
right.
call it Mongolian, Afghan,
Yeah, Afghan.
Afghani. So there's a couple of different ones that they'll call them like that. They'll call them Mongolian or Afghani. Hey, we got some rain. All right. So yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier with Devin. Huh?
Sorry, what did you say about the Mongolian and the Afghan?
So Mongolian or Afghan, I mean, depending upon who you talk to as to where they'll claim it's coming from, where it's native to. So that's, he's just talking about the one that I said Devin had earlier that's
It's truly looks like a white mulberry, but it's not. But it's
well, it's green
It's
and then
so
it goes
sweet.
to a very pale yellow.
green when it's raw and light yellow, very light.
Very light yellow and the stem has to turn yellow.
Yeah.
So the more you have to pull on a mulberry fruit to pick it, the less ripe it is.
Yes,
You should just barely touch it. Best thing, put a tarp underneath. Shake the tree, let the wind shake it, let the fruit fall. That's how they've done it for 1,000 years. That's how they've harvested mulberry for 1,000 years. Put the
I just
tarp
can't
blanket
wait.
underneath
I
it.
just sat in the tree and ate it.
Well, you can sit in the tree. You can sit in the tree and eat it, or you can go visit a family friend on the day that you know he went and harvested mulberries that morning, and let his wife bring you everything and suck up half the crop.
Do you know if Jake has those?
The green ones? No.
Mongolian or Afghan?
No,
Is
Devin.
this for us to eat?
Yeah, he's gonna share that, so that's gonna be for us to snack on it today.
We'll eat it before.
So the
You have to
white
wait, you have to be patient, I think.
white mulberries from China, and that's what they use for silkworms.
Yeah.
So the white mulberries spread throughout the world because everybody wanted to grow silk. Because China used to guard it really carefully. The history rumor is that there was some Chinese princess that was given to somebody else, maybe over towards India or something, I forget off the top of my head, and she smuggled mulberries and seeds out to get them out of there, what she was told to bring as part of her dowry, 2,000-3,000 years ago, and that's how they got out and got away from everything. But my father told me, I don't know if it's true or not, but he said that there was, I think it was National Geographic, and I'm talking 40 years ago, 50 years ago, had done a deal on mulberries in China and showed these guys who just had these old long rifles, and their sole job was to sit underneath these mulberry trees and shoot the birds that were going into the tree to eat the worms, because they're protecting the silkworms. So that was their sole job, was to go and just shoot the birds, keep them away from the silkworms. So yeah, that's what it was. So white mulberry was for your silkworms. Black mulberries, the leaves are too thick and everything, silkworms don't like it. So you got white mulberry is native to China, to Asia. Red mulberry is native to eastern United States. I'm not certain if there's any true native red mulberries left because they're so interbred with the white mulberries. I'm not certain if there's any, true ones out there.
So where do we get a true black mulberry?
Well, the true black mulberry is Morris nigra, N-I-G-R-A. And that is thought to go back to the ancient Mesopotamia over into Persia, basically the Armenian highlands. And that's where they go now. It's throughout the Middle East, over to Syria, Lebanon, southern Turkey.
So how do we buy here?
Well, you just got to hope that you can find somebody who's selling a true, trust your source and see that they're buying a true one.
They are out there.
They're out there. So you'll see it, Persian mulberry is generally what it's labeled as. And these are the least likely to hybridize. So white mulberries and red mulberries have 14 sets of chromosomes. So they have 28 total chromosomes. Black mulberry, the nigra, has over 300. So it is not as prone to showing any changes, any hybridization. There's You get one or two little changes in a gene, there's over 300 others that are out there to outcompete it. So it's rare that you see hybrid or changed black mulberries. So if you can find a true black mulberry,
You said
those
the
are
red is sold under the name of like Persian mulberry?
be sold as a Persian. Like I said, the dwarf everbearing mulberry we told you to get in your pot, it is sold as a black mulberry. It's not a black mulberry. It's a white mulberry.
So is the Persian mulberry small like everbearing, or is it long like?
No, the Persian mulberry is smaller. It's not as small as the everbearing,
Everbearing.
but
So it's
one
like
of the,
Shangri-La.
but one of the best flavors. Shangri-La originated in Florida.
So
Shangri-La,
the Shangri-La is not that big either.
Shangri-La is not that big. The tree's smaller, about 20 to 35 feet.
Yeah, it grows more wide than.
So
Yeah.
Persian is similar.
Persian is similar to the fruit and size as the Shangri-La, but it is much, much sweeter. Persian is still
It's
one of the best.
Yeah.
It is the best. So now, with that, so mulberries can grow almost anywhere. The white mulberry's been found up to 10,000 feet in elevation, so that's not an issue. The Shangri-La, originating in Florida, can take the cold, doesn't really like super cold regions. The biggest problem with Shangri-La is you had winter, you get 2-3 weeks of warm weather, and boom, it's leafing out and off to the races,
And
and it
you'll,
gets
you'll
cold
lose your
again.
fruit immediately.
Yeah, first little cold snap, you lose your fruit, you lose the foliage, you lose everything.
Yeah.
So if you're in a colder region, make certain you're getting varieties that leaf out much later, that aren't prone to coming with the first couple of warm days.
Shangri-La is good for hair.
Shangri-La will do well here, but I can show you some people who had issues with them this year.
The first year we planted
It's
it,
cold this year.
Yeah, because it got cold, it got warm and cold.
warm and then,
Right,
yeah.
back and forth, back and
Yeah.
forth.
The first year we planted our Shangri-La, I was told, yeah, they can take the cold and everything, and it froze back. And what we have now is a multi-trunk tree because of what had happened with that original freeze. I'm okay with it. I don't have to climb very tall ladders. A 6-foot ladder reaches the top of my tree, no
So-
problem.
There, that can be an issue of that whoever had it as a grower beforehand.
Babied
I've seen
it.
this, well, not so much babied it, some of them they were also pushing. So mulberries started to get so popular, so some of the wholesale growers, to try and meet demand, were pushing with nitrogen, made the trees grow faster. They were weaker, they ended up freezing where they're normally,
Yeah.
Shangri-La may not normally freeze, especially here in Tucson, even though you get cold where you're at. But it was enough to make it freeze because of that. You get,
This happens with figs too. If
Fig-
you
with
put too
figs.
much nitrogen.
nitrogen's just, figs will just grow and you'll never see any
Yeah,
fruit.
exactly.
So watch that fertilizing. They don't need a lot, and a little lower nitrogen is better. So a couple of the white fruit, beautiful day. It's a white fruit, 1 inch long, sweet lavender. It's another white fruit. The dwarf everbearing is black, weeping. It's a decorative tree. If you want a decorative tree, get a weeping mulberry. Kokum is a Korean, be hard to find here, but large, very flavorful. Black fruit is a good one. Russian,
To go back to the
Tatarka.
world's best, I've heard that it's possibly a dwarf type. Have you heard that one?
So the world's best does seem to be, we'll call it a semi-dwarf, around 15 feet, maybe 20 feet. They're still, I'm still like him, seeing some debate out there, but they seem to be staying on the smaller side, growing very fast initially. It was very fast, exceptionally fast, much faster than the dwarf everbearing. But
What if you were to graft other varieties onto that rootstock? Do you think it would cause a dwarfism of some sort? I'm about to do that. and that's why I'm
I don't think it would cause a dwarfism. Well, oh, you mean of the other varieties?
Yeah, like if I was
putting-
to put a Pakistan or a Shangri-La, I'm gonna do both.
You could
most
give it a
likely.
try. So, one of the reasons we're saying this is you look at some of these white mulberries, 60 to 80 feet in height easily. So it's a massive tree. So give them room. That means their roots are growing out and spreading as well. So 60, 80 foot tree, massive tree. The red mulberry, native back east, 30 to 50 feet. Shangri-La, 20 to 35 feet. Black mulberry, 30 to 50 feet. I don't know how long the dwarf or the world's best live, but like some of the white mulberries, been known to live 200 plus years, and the true blacks 500 years
Yeah.
in the right conditions. And then you get some of them here because they weren't treated properly. They live 20 or 30 years, and then they're getting diseased and dying.
And the soil is very alkaline too.
So
like,
soil
as
here-
the roots
so-
go further, they're hostile.
Well, but mulberries will grow in almost any soil up to about a 7.5 pH. And the Persian actually does very well in alkaline soil, originating in the Middle East, in the basically Southwest Asia.
Are they strong enough to break walls and all?
They wouldn't break walls, but if they're close enough, they could upheave walls.
Yeah.
Eucalyptus could break walls. Eucalyptus, yeah, my brother had a eucalyptus tree neighbor's house, and it was, I forget, it was his old house, 30 or 50 feet away, and it was upheaving his old cement wall that was built strong way back in the day. So mulberries, if they're planted close enough, they'll upheave walkways, walls, but they're not, you know, if it's from a distance.
And
they're
you
not
can
gonna
also
break
kind
a
of
wall.
train the root systems to go to where the water source is. So if you have a wall, don't water near the wall, or they will send roots there and cause some damage. So water away from that particular area.
Yeah, so when you water, put the hose there. My favorite saying, put the hose there very slowly, go to dinner, dancing, movies, come home, have a nightcap, read the paper, and go turn the water off.
Set a timer
Set-
on your
set-
cell phone.
Set a timer on your cell phone for 6 hours later, and you're good to go. So that covers the main varieties and everything. So that's pretty much mostly talking mulberries in a nutshell. So I don't know if there's any other questions. We're also going to throw it out there, any requests, and as well as online, if you've got a request. We do this, we shoot for the third Wednesday of every month at the same time. We're here to talk what was considered rare fruit for Tucson. We're now opening it up to anything and everything. So we can talk lychee. Last month was avocados. We can talk figs. We can
So the
talk
next one is on 21st of June.
21st of June.
Same
As
time.
long as I am here, I may have to go to Texas for work. If that's the case, then it's just I will try and do it from the hotel room via Zoom only. I've done that before.
How
So.
soon do you announce the date?
Well, just plan on it. It's for the 21st of June, and I will try and put it out there 3 to 5 days beforehand, because I've discovered if I put it too early, everybody forgets.
And what is the next? What's the topic for the next one? You have decided?
Yeah,
Yes.
I hear you.
Okay, great. I found a really nice Pakistan, and I love it, and it's so great, and there's so much fruit this year. I would like to add one more mulberry. I'm really going with the Shangri-La as a mulberry. You know, I've got a nice basin that gets, it gets both rainwater and it also gets, the bathwater from, the graywater basin. So I'm gonna do it, I keep doing it like that. I figure out, but I was trying to size on the really best with my package.
How far away? Yeah, how close together would they be? And I go with the Shangri-La, far superior fruit. It's one of the best out there.
And the fruit size is at least 3 times the size of an everberry. Trying to find a picture for comparison.
Yeah, he's looking for a picture here, but if you have the room, go with the Shangri-La. So 20 to 35 feet. Well, we've always had a few warm days, but if it goes for several weeks, that's what's going to make them come out.
Is the camera on this?
No, on both. So the camera's here. So
I don't know if you can see this, Kay, but that's a Shangri-La next to an everbearing mulberry. I would say the flavor is very similar depending on how you treat your soil. If you do not give it enough sugar in your soil, they become a little bit more tart. And I actually add like a molasses compost tea, which Tony's fertilizer has in it already, and works really well to actually sweeten them up. I've actually taken brown sugar, raw sugar, the raw, and thrown it below as well. And they actually get sweeter, but you can see the size difference there. Shangri-La is just amazing. It's a crowd favorite next to Pakistan. I do love everbearing as well, but just picking them is just not as easy as it is with a larger berry. They both do.
Yeah, they both will.
Our Pakistan this year, we've gotten 100 pounds off of it and sold them through our farm. The Shangri-La is getting up there as well. I'd say we're probably at about 50 pounds, and we probably have another 25 to go or so. My third year with the Shangri-La, though, we did crop about almost 100 pounds. It was insane. So mulberry everything.
And mulberry, so as far as my fertilizer goes, so I won't give you the whole backstory unless somebody asks for it, but it's derived from backguano, high source kelp meal, neem seed meal, like he said, baker's molasses, so it's a dehydrated baking molasses. So if you're trying to do cooking and can't find molasses, blame me. Last order was 4,000 pounds of it.
Oh my God.
Magnesium sulfate, which is your Epsom salt. You can't say Epsom salt on the label.
Yeah.
Just small amount. Volcanic ash for minerals and silica. Silica makes a big difference for your plants.
Absolutely.
It will actually increase their heat and drought tolerance over time. And then mycorrhizas. So everything is all there. Literally avocados to zinnias. Phoenix Magazine last year put us up there as best fertilizer in the valley. So, thank you. So there's an endorsement for all you people. She's endorsing it online here. I got a guinea pig right over there.
I've been a guinea pig as well.
This was another guinea pig when I formulated it. So, you get this. So Debbie called it my garden on track. So a month ago, I had a customer message me. She said, "Tony, we love your fertilizer. My husband calls it coke for his garden."
You're a
I
dealer
said,
now.
I'm a dealer.
I'm a dealer. Next guinea pig.
It's
I'm
the
a dealer
hair.
with the
It's
license.
the hair.
It's the hair, yeah, it's the
It's
hair.
the hair that's when
So I guess I'm the dealer with the license. So
Coke for trees. That's
yeah, you can just look on it for that. So Paula, it's the best. Thank you, Paula. I appreciate that. You've been great. Yeah, look who we found.
She actually planted my volcano style, which is so proud to see somebody take that to heart and do it. After coming to our
Yeah.
farm and seeing how quickly
Yeah.
and how large our trees are, she said, "Tell me the ways," and I sent her our YouTube video, Aqua Gringo Urban Farm. You can see a few videos about planting and our spiral irrigation on there as well.
Yeah, and then the name of the company, Earth's Original Organics. That's what the YouTube channel is under Earth's Original Organics. Go to the website if you want to order the fertilizer or even just to email me questions. I am on the road a lot, so occasionally I miss something. So if you haven't heard back in a couple
Just
days,
poke 'em again.
harass me. If you don't
what's
hear
your
back,
farm? What's your farm, Jake?
Aqua Green Go Urban Farm.
AQUA, Aqua Green.
AGG.
bingo.
Huh?
AGG. Aqua Green Go Urban Farm.
Aqua
here in Tucson. So,
Green Urban Farm.
so anybody out there have a request for next month for what we're going to talk about next month? Well, we can.
How about mango?
Oh, mango's good.
You gonna do mangoes next month, or you wanna do them more when they're in season?
What are they in season? Did you
More
already-
over the summer.
Did you already do fig?
Haven't done fig. We got mango.
Guava.
We could do. Why don't we do loquats since loquats
Oh,
are coming to the end of the
loquats.
season?
Yeah.
Loquat is
Loquats.
Loquats are coming to the end of their season,
Yes.
so we will do loquats for next month.
my
But try
favorite
and do it
tree.
when they're in season. Yeah, loquat. Oh dear God, one of the best fruit you're ever gonna
Large
gonna
large
have-
seeds, but you can plant more of them.
And I'll even tell you about the time I was hanging upside down in a tree on one of the school properties on the weekend, waiting for the police to come pulling up and arrest me.
Yeah. People don't understand how amazing loquats are until you've actually tried their fruit and seen their growth.
They confuse it with kumquat, and that's a
Yeah,
citrus.
exactly. People always go, so you
Yeah.
grow kumquats. No, loquats.
Loquats.
It's the
Loquats are
apricot
different.
of the gods.
Yes.
Loquats are different, yes. Like I said, if I'm gonna.
I have 3 of them, but no fruit so
Oh,
far.
quick story. So, Asplundr, the TEP slashers of trees, came by this morning, and we have a whole entire row of trees and mesquites and intermixed, and we have persimmon, loquats growing underneath the dapple blight of mesquite tree, and they had to obliterate our mesquites going into the lines. And I didn't realize the irrigation didn't run this morning, and came home and had frizzle fried tips already on the loquats. And they're almost full grown. If I just would have had the irrigation right.
It would have been okay.
They
So
need
yeah, so
water.
the arborist, when it comes through to where trees are growing underneath utility wires, they may be arborists, they may be tree guys, but they're not there to prune the trees properly.
No, they're slashers.
They are there, their sole job is to prune the trees away from the overhead utility lines. That's
And the
it.
future growth as well, sometimes.
And the future growth as well
Yeah,
sometimes.
today
so.
looks extreme, but we'll see. The plants
Well,
should
because
grow
they're
back.
they're so far behind schedule, they're, instead of, before they used to just come in and
Yeah, you're
cut it,
right.
keep it out of there. Now they've got to cut it so it's not
So-
an issue for 3
So
years.
most tree like acidic, like the sulfur that you add, is
Yeah,
it true for all the trees?
I sprinkle it
All the fruit trees?
to our entire yard, and nothing has had any issues with it.
There's
Well,
no-
it's-
We're talking about, like, it depends on how much you're utilizing sulfur. You're constantly watering with a pH of 7.8 to 8.2, depending on your area in the Southwest. And
So sulfur is
it's a constant battle back and forth.
So water is actually hurting them. You
Well,
know,
so, and soil resists change. So I had one of my professors tell us something, so you're talking 40 years ago, 50 years ago, they went to the Wilcox Playa, which that pH can be 8 pushing 9.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just very high. And they took sulfuric acid, dumped it there, dropped the pH to like a 6, was like 3 or 5 days later, and it was back to an 8 or 9. So it,
so you need to
lots of organic matter, lots of organic. So what it is you're trying to get it is plants. Okay, plants that grow in acidic pHs don't necessarily always have to stay in a 5.5 pH. As long as they're getting the nutrients they need, they can grow in a 6 to a 6.5. And some nutrients are more available at a
At
more
a lower-
acidic, like at
yeah,
a
at a lower pH.
5.5. You get below 5, you start going into 4s. Aluminum starts becoming available, and the plants will uptake aluminum. And if you're taking it into your fruit, then you can get aluminum. This is how you get aluminum toxicity. 7.5, 8, some nutrients are more available there. Everything's available between 6 and 7, with 6.2 to about 6.5, 6.6
is a sweet spot.
is the sweet spot where everything is available right in
all
there.
the plants.
So, all plants. All
Yeah.
plants require the same
Vegetables.
So
nutrients.
citrus needs that too.
Citrus
all
is
plants.
super acidic. I tend to think of how the fruit is and what the acidity is of the fruit. If the orange is growing a fruit that drops below there, that lowers the pH, then they need an acidic soil.
They
And
need-
just like the mulberries produce so much sweet fruit that drops down below, it helps to give it the nutrients that it needs. So try to replicate what's going on there.
So, but-
Nature made its own fertilizers.
If you're there, those 6.2 to 6.5, all the nutrients are available. All plants, every living plant out there requires the exact same 16 nutrients to grow. And as long as they're available in there, and you're slightly acidic, anything below 7 is acidic. 6.2 to 6.5, I'm slightly acidic. I got someone, Mel, up in there, I don't know if you saw her Tucson backyard gardening a week or so ago.
Yeah.
She posted all her blueberry pictures,
Yeah.
loaded with blueberries here in Tucson. And I don't think she was putting anything on them to be acidic. She was just treating them with my fertilizer. Loaded with fruit.
Yeah, I have one
So
this
as
big,
long
it
as
has
the-
about 7-8 blueberries on it.
You've done
the
it.
leaves are totally green, totally green. I threw some sulfur
Yeah.
once every month and a half.
So as long as the nutrients are there, the plants are going to produce. And so basically you can say, oh, well, it's too alkaline, I need to make the soil acidic. No, you just need to make it in the range that all the nutrients are available.
I have a lead cherry growing this big, green, totally, but I don't have a pollinator.
A pollinator, yeah.
And, but because of
That's
sulfur-
good though. I've failed at cherries
Huh?
3 times now,
It's-
so
it's-
you're doing well.
It's 4 feet tall with full green leaves. I wish I had a pollinator. It's a leaf and laying whatever that next one is.
I have.
So everybody, loquats are gonna be
The next.
be next month. It's, all right, so we're pushing 8 o'clock, 7:45, something like that, so.
Over some bourbon.
With some any other questions or anything before we?
Somebody bring plastic glasses.
What's the silica you were talking about? I pulled it up here, but I haven't had a chance. What do you?
So
what
just
is that?
silica, so silica
Needs to
is
be added.
silica. So like you'll,
What's it good for? I mean,
silica, I don't recall why they didn't leave it, but when they debated umpteen years ago what nutrients plants needed, they left silica off the list. Now they're finding out that silica will help with the larger girth of a tree. Strengthens the girth of a plant, increases heat and drought tolerance over long-term use. Will even affect the foliage. So since I started using the fertilizer on occasionally, my plants have gone 3 years without fertilizer. Now you wouldn't think I own a fertilizer business.
We know, Tony.
Yeah, I know.
It's
I know.
expensive.
yes.
Not a matter
Jake,
of
how old is
expensive,
this
I've never-
tree? How old is this
I've
tree?
never-
He's too
home, but-
busy.
So
That's
I-
from last year.
Last
It's from a little teeny baby. Yeah.
The-
We grow them out.
We eat grape leaves. My wife makes a lot of grape leaves. And we can taste the difference in the grape bleach off of our own plants,
From that silica.
just from the silica. So you can,
And
you can
you
tell.
can just you can find silica. It's used in cannabis grows. It's available, and then
And
you
it's
know,
gonna be expensive because the cannabis guys will pay $100 for a little
but it goes a long way.
bag like this.
Yeah.
It'll go a long ways,
Yeah,
but yeah.
absolutely.
But look at it, if you see anybody using volcanic ash or some of those ingredients in the
Rock
fertilizer,
dusts, elamite.
rock dust,
azomite.
azomite, elamite, any of those, the silica is there. So it's just like where you
Yeah,
hear
that's why
everybody
we
say,
add it.
oh, I'm putting Epsom salt in my garden along with my fertilizer. Well, the fertilizer contains magnesium sulfate. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. Now you're overdosing the magnesium. And if you live back in like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, where they mine the magnesium from, you don't necessarily need to add
Yeah.
it because it's there. That's
you're
why
not going to
it's-
get blossom end rot there.
that's why I put it in very small amounts in my fertilizer so that it can
So
just
here we need
to
silica?
distinguish. Huh?
Here we need silica in Tucson.
I've seen it help. So,
It
so
helps.
adding silica sand, does it actually become available to the plants themselves?
That's when I haven't had time to do research on.
So
But silica
we-
sand, you gotta be careful because you get too much down on the soil,
it'll compact.
it'll compact and it'll smother everything else
Yeah.
underneath, including beneficial bacteria and fungi.
Yeah, so what we're doing is chip drops constantly, and we add silica sand to our chip drops. We make customized soils for every single plant that we plant. We do food forest installs. And what we've seen is adding just a little bit of silica sand every year has increased insane growth. I mean, we're also using Tony's fertilizer. This is at
There's a
Christy's house.
good picture of him buying fertilizer right here
And while I'm working for another company.
while he's working for another company.
And I'm also wearing the competition of another grow place.
Yeah, that's right. I
Not right
forgot-
now, but-
in that picture, I forgot about that.
It was hilarious. I
Is
support
silica-
everyone.
Is silica sand the sand that they use for sandblasting?
Yes, it's
Yes.
very fine, and you can buy it's like 40 grit
But
sand.
be careful. I mean, just like they
Yeah,
use
you
silicon.
can, do not inhale.
Do not
it.
inhale it.
Yeah.
It'll cut up your
Should it be
lungs.
less expensive to buy it in a place that?
Jake.
You can buy from
I don't
Home
know how
Depot.
good it would be available though. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I'm sorry, azomite is not expensive, but it's knowing
It goes
when to
long
use it
way.
and how much to use it. I
Yeah.
mean, azomite, if by the third year you're using it more than once a year, you're
Exactly.
overdoing it.
Tony
So-
told me that, and we have sloughed off azomite completely.
that is
We're using elamite, but same thing.
Elamite works good too.
Mine from Utah.
They're both out of Utah. Just one's on this side of the mountain pass, the other
The other
one's
one's on the other.
Elamite. So I talked to one of the original owners about 5-6 years ago, because it went through several different owners. So the backstory with Elamite, you'll get a kick out of this for how good it is. A miner woke up one morning and his 2 mules were missing, and he tracked them down. He followed their footsteps, tracked them down, and they had their heads buried in
They were
just like
licking the minerals.
they were eating what he now bagged and sold as Elamite.
Yeah, they needed it.
So it's
And
all the
it's
minerals
used
and
in-
everything else that's in it.
It's used in
Azomite is-
livestock.
Azomite is sold more as a feedstock
Feed addition,
than it is for going to plants.
But
So,
just use sparingly after your 3rd year or so, you have a lot of minerals available in your soil.
yeah, you don't need to keep doing. And again, I make it easy for you. All of it's already. I know my fertilizer is expensive, but go and start buying all those ingredients separately,
Absolutely.
and then figure it out. It's not expensive anymore.
It's not at all.
5-pound bag of the fertilizer, I think he's got it here, like $45. We sell it 60 online, so we can ship it everywhere. But
Buy each individual
buy
component.
2-pound box. He's got a 2-pound, so that's a 5-pound bag. Bat guano, kelp meal, neem meal, molasses, volcanic ash, mycorrhizia, magnesium sulfate. He's got a 2-pound box of just bat guano. Here's $23.
Yep.
So $11. It's
Yeah.
up
Your
there.
price, your
Your
price
car,
point
I
is
think.
right on there.
You have your thing with you right now?
What's that?
Your
The
soil,
fertilizer?
Your thing.
Yeah, I've got my.
These mix.
Yeah, so I think I need to grab a couple bags next time we do it and just
Yeah,
put them right here and have
I'll
them like
actually
this, frame,
take it now. You have.
frame myself.
Tony
So,
Montana.
yeah. Thanks, Debbie, for coming in.
It's such good
So-
reviews. How can you?
Oh yeah, like I said, she's one of the guinea
Yeah.
pigs right there. He's a guinea pig.
Oh, make me one.
It still costs you, friend.
No, I will buy.
So, but yeah, he's
Tony's
got
gotta
it
make a
here.
living.
They've been shipping it out, and people are contacting me from everywhere.
Yeah,
So-
when I was a guinea pig, it was when he was just making it, it was excellent. So he had tweaked it a ton.
Yeah, because he's
since then.
putting all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah. Anybody in a good fertilizer business is always going to tweak until they find
Yeah.
that perfection point. And
But
even
it-
then,
Yeah, but
a
it was-
wise man who knew everything realized he did not know anything at some point, right? You're always learning from something.
I'm always learning. That's why I love all the feedback. So everybody give feedback, say something. Tony, this stank. You're terrible. What have you? Or Tony, we love you. We didn't know that Jerry Garcia was your doppelganger. Hey, I went to a client's house a month ago, the end of March, for the first time, and go look and there's this portrait somebody did like 15 years ago, this really colorful one of Jerry. And I'm like, see, it was meant to be
Where's
for
the
me to be
picture?
here.
Come on.
I got it.
You gotta say
I
that.
took a picture of it, yes.
Of course he did.
Of course I did. Kidding? I took a picture when I went to go and buy the Phoenix Home Garden magazine when I found out we were voted best in the Valley last year for Phoenix Magazine, best fertilizer in the Valley. I'm standing there in line at the bookstore waiting to check out, and I look, and there's the Rolling Stone had a cover picture of Jerry Garcia on it. So I grabbed that as I went and did it. I went and got in my truck and just sat there and took a picture of it and posted it out there. And I said, "Hey, Randall and Jake, here, what do you think?"
Just like it. Hey, Jake, what's your, what kind of mulberries do you have?
That I sell?
So, any questions out there? We're
We have
Thank you.
Magic Garden. We didn't include that.
Oh, okay.
I'll talk to you.
Thank you to everybody. Okay, so next month it's going to be loquat. So go out there, start research it. Same time, bless you.
Thank you.
Same time, same place. Like I say, if I end up in I'm going to be in Texas sometime next month. It may just be strictly Zoom, but otherwise we'll be here having a good time.
Jake, can take over for you.
Jake can take over for me here. I guess I'll.
We were a
I'm offering you.
good combo.
Way to delegate, way to
Yeah,
delegate.
I'm offering Jake.
Well,
Thank
she's used to taking control, being the detective there. She used to come in when we had the meetings at the council office. She'd show up late from work, come up, try and give me a hug, and I'm just waiting for me to rub her shoulder wrong and have her gun discharged one day.
She's retired, it's okay,
I
right?
know she's retired now, so it's,
Still carry, but I'm retired.
so yeah,
Okay, I
so,
get acid bite, Katie.
Never know.
Okay.
So did I hear you wrong? Are we on the web?
what's that?
Are we still taping?
Yeah.
We're still taping, so I mean, we can stop it now. We're gonna sign off. It's
Goodbye,
8 o'clock.
everyone.
We're at a business here that closed 3 hours ago, so we need to kind of get out of here. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Have a blessed evening. Any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, either Facebook, Instagram, or at earthsoriginalorganics.com is the website. You can message me there via email, and I will get to them. Thank you all for joining, everybody. Have a blessed evening.
Cheers.
Cheers.